Evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. All right, that's what we like to hear. Well, thank you all so much for coming out. Really great to see you all here to talk about something really exciting and positive and future forward, to talk about the future of this city. And after the past 2 years, it's really exciting to be here to talk about something good. So yeah, absolutely. So we're so happy to have you. My name is Kerry McCormick, and I have the privilege of serving Ward 3 on Cleveland City Council, which includes this beautiful piece of property behind you. I'm here to simply welcome you. Welcome you and thank you for leaning in and being a part of this really exciting conversation about a world-class 23-acre park that will be built on the near west side of the city of Cleveland, that will be built to be an asset for the entire city of Cleveland, and that will be built as a regional haven for folks all around the community to enjoy every single day. This is truly one of those moments, and by moment I mean many years that it's going to take to get this done, but truly one of those moments where something spectacular happens in our community, and we all come together to build something that people of all income levels, of all backgrounds, of all parts of our community will be able to enjoy. So you're going to learn a lot tonight. You're going to hear a lot about the process, kind of, how we've gotten here today, where we are today, and where we're going. But I just want to recognize and thank a couple people. First and foremost, our neighborhood community leaders. Can you please raise your hand? If you're a block club leader, community activist, Miss Triplett, I see you back there. If we could all raise our hands. I want to thank our neighborhood leaders. Not only for the direction where we've gotten today, but for everything that you do on a daily basis to make our neighborhood such a special place. I've got Fred Collier here, the director of the Planning Commission of the City of Cleveland. Want to give him a shout out? Absolutely. CEO of the CMHA, Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. Jeff, give us a wave. So happy to have you here today. And our many leaders from the Metro Parks, Ohio City Incorporated, and neighborhood leaders who are here today as well. So once again, thank you for being here today. We really look forward. Greg from Land Studio, come on. Let's give it up for Greg, our fearless leader, Tom McNair at Ohio City. But the good news is that you didn't come here to listen to me. So thank you guys all so much for being here today. Really look forward to this conversation and getting updated on this park. Please continue to engage in this process, because when you look behind you, that hillside that needs to be completely shorn up and rebuilt will be a spectacular, world-class riverfront park in no time. So thank you. Lean into this conversation. Enjoy. Without further ado, our spectacular community organizer who runs our community engagement and all of our neighborhood programming in Ohio City and the near west side, Whitney Long-Jones.
Thank you, Councilman. I don't know about running all the programs on the near west side. That's a pretty big feat to undertake, and it only happens with the team. So as Councilman said, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you, Ms. Cynthia. I see one of our Irishtown Band Committee of Champions clapping her hands, and that's really what it's about. So I want to speak a little bit to some of the engagement that we've done around the whole entire Irishtown Bend Park project. We have established, as I was saying earlier, a committee of champions, and that is made up of residents in the neighborhood who we are looking for feedback from, for insight, to help guide us through this process. What is it that would make this park more equitably accessible and universally accessible when it comes to physical abilities, when it comes to race relations, when it comes to cultural respect and sensitivity? So that is a major part of what the information that we've gathered from the Committee of Champions. As you can see, we have on these awesome green shirts, Irishtown Bend Park, they're for sale, but then we also have the champions on the back. So our champions, when you see them, thank them for the awesome work and dedication they have to the community of Ohio City and also to the Irishtown Bend Park project. So let me introduce myself. I completely missed that part. So Whitney Long-Jones, I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Ohio City Incorporated, and so happy to see all of you here tonight. This has been a pleasure putting, I like planning things, I like organization and structure. So for me, this has been a pleasure working with everybody to pull something like this together. And as long as this project has been underway for at least 5 years now, the first engagement aspect took place in 2017. And we wanted to make sure once we got to the place where we are, and Tiffany Graham from Land Studio is going to talk a little bit more to the technical side of things, but once we started that engagement process in 2017, we wanted to make sure that we were engaging as a diverse audience of stakeholders as possible. So again, that's where our Irishtown Bend Committee of Champions have come in and supported this process. A few housekeeping items. You should have received a ticket so that you could get some food from awesome Merwin's Wharf. We want to thank Cleveland Metro Parks for working with us to put together an amazing menu of items for you to choose from. You get a food item and you get a non-alcoholic beverage. Any alcohol, beer and wine, that's on you all. But we did our part, so you're welcome. Thank you. A couple of other things. We are also streaming this live. We have Boxcast, which is a flexible and easy-to-use platform. They are right in the middle, so please thank them as you walk past them. And we also have the whole AV system set up to my left, your right. Thank them as you walk past them. This is great. That's being recorded, live streamed on YouTube, on the Ohio City Inc. website, and also, Chad, I'm missing a platform. Where else is this being streamed? YouTube and Facebook and the Ohio City Inc. website. So for folks who are online, virtual, we will do our best to get to your questions. But if we don't get to them, we'll look at them after this presentation and follow up with anyone that had additional comments or questions. So with that, I would really like to pass this off to Tiffany Graham, who is our director, our senior project director for Land Studio. Again, thank you all for being here, and we're looking forward to your feedback and input.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to see so many people out here tonight. This bonus summer evening is amazing. It really couldn't be any better. And I want to remind everybody that this all started because of those ships that we got to see coming down the river. And we know the cargo and the jobs and the economic activity that are connected to all of that. And also this hillside behind us that has been slowly but steadily falling into the river. And we're just so grateful to the leadership of the Port of Cleveland and NOACA and the many other funders who have come together to raise all of the necessary money that was needed to stabilize the hillside and give us an amazing opportunity to do something fantastic on that once the stabilization work is done. And that's why we're all here together tonight. It was too great of an opportunity to look at this enormous piece of land and not think about what we could do that would be transformative for the community and for the environment and for all of us and all of you. I'm really honored to have the job tonight of introducing Scott Catafa. He's a principal landscape architect with Plural Landscape Architecture. He's a Northeast Ohio native and actually worked for one of the predecessor organizations that became Land Studio. So he's part of the family tree here and has been for a very long time. For any of you who have been on the trail across the river, you will notice that there are trailheads at both ends of this, with Irishtown Bend being a missing link in the middle. That trail is not an accident. It was Scott's brainchild over 15 years ago. He's been as obsessed with the flats as anybody ever has been. He did his graduate landscape architecture project on the flats. And so getting him to work on this project with his team is just such an amazing sort of reunion of all kinds of ideas. And we're so grateful to have you here, Scott, tonight. Nobody wants to hear me. I'm going to pass the mic over to him and let you all see what's in store. We can't wait to hear your input. Thank you.
While Scott is coming up, I would be absolutely remiss, please forgive me, for not mentioning the Gun Foundation. We received a decent amount of funding for engagement to make working with the Irishtown Band Committee of Champions and also this event tonight. So please forgive me. Thank you, Gun Foundation.
Thank you, Tiffany and Whitney, for that lovely introduction. I'm thrilled to be here and continue our work envisioning this really special place. As you might imagine, it's a very complex project, and it takes a lot of partnerships to make this thing happen, and we're grateful for all of them. This is a sampling of them. And we also, of course, are super grateful for the Gun Foundation for their support and hosting us tonight and enabling us to reach out to the community and the people who live here and the people who will use this park in the future and get your ideas so that we're at a point in the process where we're really excited to have your feedback. There's opportunities to really enhance this design that I'm going to share today. This is certainly not a final part in the process. We've been working really closely with the Port of Cleveland and their engineering team on the stabilization issues, which I'll talk about, and the impact that it had on the 2017 vision plan that we put together with your feedback. But we're very much building on that work. So I hope you'll see some of those ideas come through in the work that we'll share tonight. The team has developed a really tech-savvy engagement tool through Co-Urbanize, and you can text these numbers. I'll show these throughout the evening. And we'll maybe pause so you have an opportunity to ask questions, certainly after we have a presentation, but if you prefer, you can also text comments and questions and ideas to the various numbers that I'll be showing on the screen and stay involved through Whitney and through the Co-Urbanize site. So just to clarify what we're doing tonight and what we're looking at Irishtown Bend. This is this kind of knotweed covered failing slope behind us that goes from Bridge to Detroit, from West 25th Street to the river. And we'll start with just a little bit of context and process, because I've seen some of you, I met some of you in 2017. I've been working with Tina and Cynthia from the Committee of Champions. We met back earlier this summer. And so this is kind of give you a sense. So those of you who are new to the process, just of what we've been doing and where we are. I'll give you a design update, and then we'll have time for a conversation afterwards. And as you might imagine, as you know, these things take time. And this was the brainchild of a study that was done in the early 90s that reimagined the archaeological site here of the old Irishtown neighborhood. And that spurred an international design competition. There was a vision study that was done in 2017 that we worked on. Other things have happened. The Lake Link Trail got built. The bridge to Whiskey Island was built. So there's been real momentum about connecting this whole network of wonderful places in the Flats, so that a place that was once private and industrial in this beautiful landscape, this amazing cityscape, this industrial place is now accessible to the public, which is extraordinary. It's a really remarkable gift to the community and to the nation, really. This is a really unusual place. So we're here in October tonight. And our next step will be to start construction on the stabilization piece. The port is teed up to begin that in the first quarter of 2022, and they expect that to take a few years. And then following that, we will start work on the park. So this is hopefully 2026. We're looking at a new open space here. And why are we doing that? Well, you guys have been up there. We've got some issues here. We have a $3.5 billion industry here that supports thousands of Cleveland jobs. If this were to fail, it's not only a danger to people, but it's a danger to the industry and the economy of the region. We also there's a sewer line that runs underneath Riverbed Street. We don't want that to burst, certainly, and pollute our river that we've worked so hard to clean for generations. So this needs to happen. And I found this, a Cleveland friend of mine sent me the image on the left, which was some bulkhead of some abandoned cars dumped on the bank back in the 60s. And we're pleased to say tonight that we have some new strategies for dealing with bulkheads. And the port, with their engineers and biohabitats, are really looking at retrofitting crenellated steel bulkhead with green infrastructure. So there will be opportunities for woody debris, planting that can help support some of the aquatic life in the river. So this is a really excited transformation of this river over decades. And I really want to commend the leaders in Cleveland for thinking that we're going to invest a lot in this infrastructure. Let's do more than that. Let's make this a gift to the city and to the region, because once we start moving all this earth around, we're going to make it a park. And Cleveland, this is the Trust for Public Lands park score for the city of Cleveland, which is quite good at 24. But it lacks area. The bottom image is showing that 6% of Cleveland's area is dedicated to park space, and the national median is 15%. So we're a little bit behind on that. We're really grateful to work with the Director Collier and his team in the planning department, because they're already on top of this. Their vision plan for the city is targeted to increase park space to 8.5% of land area, and this park will be part of meeting that goal. And when we do that, we open up this neighborhood, we open up open spaces, amenities. This is Roderick from Lakeview Estates, and when the Lakeling Trail opened, it really transformed his life. He got access to different neighborhoods, to open space. When the Wendy Park Bridge opened up, I mean, it used to take somebody from Lakeview Estates an hour and a half on the bus to get to Edgewater Park or Whiskey Island. Now it's a 5-minute walk over that bridge, which is just remarkable. We also think about climate change. We're thinking about equity, and trees are a big part of that. As our city heats up, we have urban heat island effect, we have bigger and more intense storms, and trees are going to help us mitigate some of that. And the canopy cover for our district, according to the tree equity score, is about less than half of its goal. So that's another piece that we're going to try to increase the numbers on in this park by adding more trees. We're working with the Holden Arboretum and thinking about ways to make this site really a transformative, climate-adaptive forest. We've been also working with the planning department to help them to achieve their goals, to provide high-quality recreation opportunities and facilities that meet the needs of Clevelanders of all ages, ability levels, income, and interests. And so their policy laid out 13 criteria. We're checking off 12, which we're really proud to do. We're just not preserving natural areas, because I don't think you can qualify this as a natural area. We're going to make it a natural area, or natural, I guess. And this is their proposal to increase public park and open space access to the 8.5% that I mentioned earlier. So with that background, we set out some principles to guide our work. And it was really about equitable access. As I mentioned, the neighborhoods here have not been able to get to the water. They have not had adequate open space. But we also want to coexist with these industrial land uses, and I think that's what's so beautiful about this project, is that we have a working port, we have industrial land, we have open space, and we have trails, and we can all coexist. And building off the work that's been done to clean the river, we're going to continue to enhance that and create resiliency and sustainability in the park. And then lastly, but not least, is the culture and history of this site. You know, from the Native American settlements to the Irish who came here during the potato famine, to the Eastern Europeans who settled after that, from the people who settled here from the Great Migration. This is a place of constant change and a really vibrant history. So I think there's opportunities to really tell these beautiful stories in the park, and we'll show you how we think we might do that. And then as Tiffany mentioned, this missing link in the trail network of the Tiger Trails throughout Cleveland. This will allow us to get to the Cuyahoga National Park, to Lake Erie. I mean, that's going to be an incredible bike ride. I can't wait to do it. And we're, in the middle of this wonderful neighborhood. Within a 5 or 10 minute walk, you come to historic districts, to Lakeview Estates, to Riverview Tower, the West Side Market. So it's really a center of a lot of activity, and I think it'll be a really great amenity for the neighborhood. So this was the vision plan that we developed together back in 2017. If you're familiar with it, I won't spend too much time on it, but what's happened since then is the port has done additional geotechnical research. They've hired their engineering team to develop strategies for stabilization that made us shift that plan a little bit. And the biggest piece of it is this area in red, which is the upper portion of the slope along West 25th Street. The red area is going to be cut away. and we have to take weight off of the slope to keep it from failing. But we can put weight on the bottom of the slope, and that helps with the stabilization. So that green band is places where we can put some fill. So this section will help you better visualize, but that area in red at the top of the slope, West 25th Street, is on the left of the screen here. Oh wait, that didn't go. Okay. Is cut. We're looking at moving about 250,000 cubic yards of soil on this hillside. The green area that would be on the riverside is where we can put some of that fill, and we're working really hard to try to balance it, but we won't be able to balance it. We'll have to off-haul some of that soil. What that leaves us with is a complicated grading and contouring of the land and some level areas. We're working really hard to find places where we can put program. So these areas in orange will be the sort of flat areas of the park. Every other space is going to be sloped. So these are areas where really can use your input. What the plan configuration that you'll see today is very much set as far as the grading work, but these areas that are flat, we can certainly enhance with your feedback. Another layer to this is that the Clean Ohio Open Space Conservation Program helped us to acquire these parcels that were privately held. So they have deed restrictions on it that really set a certain tone for the park. It's going to be very ecological. It's going to be passive. There'll be trails. There'll be birding. There'll be places to bike, passive uses. We won't have, within that area, much active recreation, but we're trying to fit in active pieces where we can outside of that easement area. The other piece of this is that we've got roadways moving through here with public utilities, so we have to provide access to those spaces. These areas outlined in red are the roadway easements that have utilities. The piece in yellow is showing where we're realigning Franklin to Franklin Avenue will align across Franklin Boulevard as it did historically, and that's part of the stabilization requirements. The other piece that's so wonderful is these remnants from the archaeological site shown here in blue. There was a report done in the 80s that said there were building foundations from this neighborhood. We hope to uncover those and reveal those as part of the park. There's the Cleveland-Mahoning Railroad, the first railroad that came into Cleveland. That is on the Detroit side of our park. And then there are these coal dock remnants right on the water that's currently covered in knotweed. We hope to reveal those as well. So they become these kind of sculptural art objects in the park, and they're interpretive moments to tell the history of this neighborhood and of the city. The Irish settlements build the canals and the ships of Cleveland, so it's a really important story to tell. And these are some precedents of look and feel of kind of how we might fit those archaeological remnants into a park and make for a really unique place. This is some of the imagery that we did back in 2017. Like I said, we're building off of that. We got a real clear direction from people that they wanted a space that was natural, that was green, that wasn't super built. We got some really great feedback about the kinds of programs people wanted to see. And since then, we've been working on that as a foundation. Whitney and her team have developed this committee of champions, and we have Cynthia and I think Tina I saw, who have been touring the site, talking about issues like accessibility. We want to make sure that this is, with our Riverview neighbors here, we have a lot of seniors, and so this has to be accessible to people in wheelchairs and all kinds of ability levels. So they've been walking around, making sure, giving us feedback about what the priorities are. The bike advocacy community has done tours on the Lake Lake Trail, and we're speaking with them. And there's also been a youth fishing day on the water to engage the kids in the neighborhood to get excited about the future of the park. And out of that work, we really learned that this multi-generational and universal access was a key part of the park. And then not only that, but thinking about future programming of the park, like what's going to happen here. And we would love your ideas on that too. Like, we had some great ideas about adult fitness and wellness happening here, art classes. I don't know if Thomas is in here tonight, but maybe there's a painting lending library. We can have outdoor painting here, ideas for international markets and festivals that celebrate the rich cultural history of this area. And this is kind of a smattering of those programs that we're considering. As I mentioned, adult fitness and play, gardening, fishing, outdoor movies and concerts, play, strolling, birding, and a 4-season event so that we can think about this place in all the seasons of the year. So this is a prompt, this is a text number that you'll see these on the posters around tonight, but if you want to take a moment and tell us a little bit more about what you'd like to see in the park, this is not your only opportunity, but I just want to encourage you to have multiple ways of feedback, because some of us aren't here tonight, so please, please text. So now we'll talk about the design update. As we did in 2017, we were thinking about these gateways. The park will meet the trails of Lake Link on both Columbus over here and Detroit over here, but up at Franklin, we want to have a neighborhood connection and a city connection at Detroit and the new alignment of Franklin, but we also want Ohio City Farm to be a gateway and incorporate the farm into the park. So there's more public access and more ways of, great. It's such a beautiful amenity, and it really wants, we're going to keep the farm, of course, but we wanted to make it a more of a public amenity for everyone. So layered on that is a series of programs. As I mentioned, the area in kind of dark green, the olive green in the middle, is the natural areas that will be that are mostly steep slopes with accessible trails carved through. But we have this great lawn that's 2 acres in the middle of the park. That's about the size of Fairview Park, if you guys know it, over in the neighborhood. We have a maritime theater that will be just opposite us that will have great views of the city, and we just watched those freighters coming in, and a place to sit and watch that on an evening would be phenomenal, right? And so that's a place for that to happen. We're creating a Riverwalk along the bulkhead. And then the Hilltop Park is a place where we have more neighborhood-serving programs for the community. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And this is an indication of the many stories that are on the site. As I mentioned, not only the Irish settlement, but we also have, you know, a moment where we look down Church and we see St. John's Episcopal, and that's the last stop on the Underground Railroad. And that could be part of a diaspora garden or memorial to escaped slaves who came to Cleveland before crossing Lake Erie to Canada. There could be a garden there that brings the seeds that they brought with them from Africa, from the south, and they brought them up north. And so there could be a beautiful garden there that talks about that history. We're looking at a playground that is inspired by the geomorphology of the river. So we have this wonderful crooked river, and maybe that's how the kids play through a space that's inspired by that. And talk about this beautiful kind of dialogue between nature and industry that's happened here. And it's gotten a little bit more balanced over the years than it was previously. So we'll celebrate that and keep moving that forward. So here's our updated plan. And again, as I mentioned, there's still room for input. This isn't final by any means. And I'll walk you through what we're thinking currently and would love to get your thoughts. This is that section again that shows you how much earth we're moving. This is West 25th Street on the left. We have a trail coming down the slope, and then that's that big flexible lawn, and then another trail at Riverbed right-of-way, and then another 25 feet down, we will have our Riverwalk, which will be a great, like 30-foot wide promenade right at the river's edge. And I think it's easier to see maybe in 3D. So this is a bird's eye view looking down at the park. You see Riverview up here on the left. And this is that grade change. I mean, we've got 100 feet at Detroit coming down to the top of the bulkhead, and we've got 90 feet on this end. So really sculpting this land in a way that creates space and beautiful places to be. And also making it accessible, as we talked about the champions. This is really important. But this is the Lake Link, which is the first and foremost important connection on the north-south route. But we're also bringing people up Franklin and up through the park so that you can get from Detroit and Franklin down to Lake Link and, with a stroller, with a wheelchair, with a bike, or a pedestrian. Also connecting that through Riverview over to Bridge. Better connections to the farm and to Riverview Tower for residents and visitors and farmers. Maintaining that connection along Riverbed Street, but as a trail, not a road. And then tying into the new Red Line Greenway. So that crosses Franklin, will come right into the park and move through that historic Irishtown Bend neighborhood along a right-of-way of the historic street. So we know we have an archaeological site there, and those foundations we're not going to disturb, so we're laying that on the route of the old roadway that moved through there. And for able-bodied people that want faster routes down, and maybe even a boot camp exercise facility, we'll have stair connections that come straight down at multiple points. So from Detroit, from Franklin, from the farm, and then also critically from the parking at Westside Market down to Franklin. And related to parking, we really, this is a neighborhood space, and so the parking is around, and we're making sure that there's clear direct access from the parking that's available. We're also reconfiguring Franklin to add street parking in, so we'll be adding some additional parking there. I'd like to step up to the top of the hill. This is along West 25th Street, and give you a kind of an idea of how we're thinking about the space. There's a kind of a series of rooms along there. As I mentioned, this is really about the neighborhood. And we'll start at the Detroit intersection, where we have a welcome pavilion that could provide shade and serve as a new bus stop for the new RTA line. This is the spot where, in 1928, Margaret Bourke White took this famous photo of the terminal tower. We hope to commemorate that in an overlook. There's opportunities for games. This is something that came out of the feedback that we got, so we can have outdoor spaces for games. The memorial to St. John's Episcopal Church that I mentioned, a place for outdoor adult fitness, a place for group family picnics, a place for play, and then rethinking the Riverview Welcome Center as a kind of neighborhood hub that could tie to the farm and the neighborhood. So it's a place where we can have outdoor dining. It's a place that we can have community events. And then finally, rethinking the frontage of Riverview so that it's really a front porch for them to provide comfort and a better outdoor space on the street. So this is an enlargement of the playground edge. This is Franklin on the right, the Welcome Center. And as I mentioned, this goes down about 10 feet, and that serpentine trail is an accessible route so that kids in wheelchairs could find their way down to a whole series of playrooms. Next to that is the Hilltop Grill Garden. That is our family picnic area, and then the adult fitness space. And this is running along West 25th Street with a new two-way cycle track. So as part of the work that the RTA is doing, we'll be rethinking that roadway to provide dedicated bus lanes, to provide two-way cycle tracks, and more comfortable pedestrian experiences. So this is a series. We'll do a quick little walk through those spaces in 3D views. We'll start at the playground, come down, and then back up again to West 25th Street. So you know there's fantastic views from above, and we hope to feature those as part of the playground. So you can imagine you're going down a slide or on a swing and you're looking out at the city skyline or down at the river. This is a space, this is that kind of serpentine pathway that's wending its way down through these playrooms. And then we have this boulder scree with slides and trails that move through it, so they really take advantage of this kind of vertical space to make a really unique play element. And then on the right, we have a kind of balcony that looks out over the city, so you can stroll, watch your kids play, climb up and down this vertical playground. And we'd love to hear more about the kind of play elements that you'd like to see. So please, these prompts are available, and you can give us your feedback, and we can incorporate them. This is back up at the top of West 25th Street. This is the family picnic area that I mentioned, the grill garden. So again, you have this balcony overlooking the skyline. You have a beautiful streetscape with trees that's shaded, and then the bike infrastructure on the left. This is what that streetscape currently looks like. And we're hoping to transform it into something much more comfortable and beautiful. The dedicated RTA line is on the right, a planted buffer, the two-way cycle track, and then the promenade and the gardens on the left. You can see Riverview Tower on the back. And as we move down the slope, this is where we have our Maritime Theater, our great lawn. We're treating all the stormwater in a series of wetlands that will treat the water before they go into the river. So this is part of the cleansing and healing of the site, but can also be a beautiful amenity for the community. These are some kind of inspirational images that we've been thinking about. And this is an enlargement of those spaces. The Riverwalk, of course, is along the river. Then the amphitheater climbs up. There's the wetland, which is this really special enclosed garden space that's treating the stormwater from the site, and then the great lawn. And then we'll do a quick tour through those. This is a view looking north towards the proposed Bridgeworks project. That's the building on the horizon. You'll see the slope coming down, and this is the Wetland Garden that I mentioned, with perimeter trails and boardwalks, places to fish. This is a place that you might skate in the wintertime. You might stroll in the spring and summer and fall. And then turning around, looking the other way towards Riverview to the south, you get a sense of how we've contoured the land to create a real sense of enclosure, so that the trails that are passing along the side of it, it creates a kind of intimate garden space separate from some of the more active zones. Now we're on Riverbed, so this is the historic alignment of the Riverbed Street, and this will become a trail piece that connects through. It also allows us to have city access to the utilities that I mentioned will remain below it. 25 feet down from that is where the Riverwalk is. You can start to see it at the bottom of the screen, and how the Maritime Theater steps between those two edges. And now here we're down at the Riverwalk, and you can see the new bulkhead along that edge. It has planting growing out of it. It has woody debris in it for fish habitat. And then we've got this really broad boardwalk that allows for bicycles and pedestrians, runners to kind of share space. And then off to the left, you see the Maritime Theater stepping up. And then lastly, we've got the Trailheads, which, as I mentioned, these connect. Number 9 is going to be looking to the north towards Detroit, and number 10 is looking to the southeast towards Columbus. And these are really dramatic spaces, right? We're under the Detroit Superior Bridge. That's that historic train tunnel. And it just seems to lend itself to a unique kind of programming space. And when we spoke to the community, people wanted something flexible, something like, you know, weekend food trucks or concessions could be here. There could be performances and concerts here. You're protected from the elements above. Places like a beer garden, or maybe there's outdoor fitness places. So we really want to design this as a flexible space that invites a lot of the programs that the community wanted to have in the park. And so this is an enlargement of that space. It's a little hard to read because it's so complex, but those cut lines are the Detroit Superior Bridge overhead, and the Lake Link Trail is kind of snaking through and connecting back up to where, you know, the existing trail link is right there. And this is a view looking to the north. That's the historic rail tunnels. We're imagining that's a great opportunity for an art installation that could be illuminated perhaps, or some kind of interesting element there. In the foreground of that is a half-size court. We heard from Shorty, I don't know if he's here, was one of the champions, that the kids in the neighborhood really wanted places for basketball, and so this is one of those level spaces where we could fit it. But it's great because it's flexible. We can also use it for food trucks. We could also use it for other things, right? So it's kind of a good surface. And then we've got kind of bleacher seating tucked in. There's the up into the embankment here. We have some seating so that you could sit and watch if this was a movie projected under here, or a concert, or a game played. There's places to sit and enjoy all that. And now we're looking on the southeast side along Columbus. You see Hooples are right over there. This would be the connection from the Lake Link Trail existing into the park. So it's another important gateway and trailhead into the park. And because these pieces really touch the neighborhood down on this end, we think it's a great opportunity for neighborhood serving programs, whether that's adult fitness or play. And we'd love more feedback on what we think. This is what we've heard to date. So we're accommodating those, but there's certainly opportunity to enhance this differently. This is an enlargement of the plan. The Columbus Street Bridge, you can see kind of at the top, running diagonally across the plan. Then the other is the viaduct. So these are really unique spaces because you're underneath all this infrastructure. So they're architectural, and so we're trying to create some kind of a, play on that unique space. And we think there's an opportunity. The bulkhead project will end right at the abutment of the viaduct. And so we've got a bit of a soft shoreline like we do currently right over there. Can we provide a bulkhead outside of the navigational channel, a boardwalk outside of the navigational channel that allows you to have that look up to the slope, create a native habitat so that's a place for fish spawning to happen here on a soft edge of the river, and then opportunity to climb up to an overlook that looks back across the river. You can watch the kayaks and the ships come through from that spot. And there's also some topography in this space as well. So we've got spaces carved into the slope, and taking advantage of that with a series of slides that come down the embankment from Franklin and slip through those columns under the viaduct. And I'll show you an image of that in a minute. This is what that space sort of feels like now. That's the viaduct abutment there. And then these are the slides that come in. So this is kind of trying to find tuck play into unique spaces, take advantage of the topography, and just create kind of some whimsy in the park. And I can imagine some people may be leaving Hooples and taking a dip down. But we have, there's accessible routes and stair routes. That's the overlook, the river overlook here in the distance. You can see that. And then a small kind of step-up amphitheater that's carved into that embankment. And then a trail down that connects to the Red Line Greenway. So this is really a hub of activity with a lot of these trails coming together. And this enlargement is of Franklin. So as I mentioned, we're realigning Franklin. We're adding parking and green infrastructure to it. There's places for bike parking and bike share pods along it. There's additional parking, some crossings that we're trying to make better, clearer connections to the farm, so the farm feels like it's part of the park. Also, the Red Line Greenway coming in and making that a really clear, safe crossing that ties into the trail systems of the park. And the Riverview Welcome Center I see as this kind of linchpin between the active uses of the park, between the Riverview Tower residents, the neighborhood, and the farm. And so we're thinking of it as this kind of hub that mixes, outdoor dining, a CSA, food space, farm stand. It could also be an art gallery. We heard from Thomas that there's artists that like to show their work, local artists that could happen here. This could be a business incubation space. It could be an after-school education space. So it really wants to serve the neighborhood and the park, and I think it's just perfectly located to do that, and touching the farm and touching the park. So here we are. I hope I didn't go through that too quickly, but I'll be here to answer questions, and happy to share any additional questions that you may have, or background on the park. But this, and as I mentioned, texting Irishtown Bend to that number will get you connected to updates on our design process, and stay tuned for how we incorporate your feedback into the next round of the design. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Scott. That is a lot of information to take in, and I feel that some of you may have some questions. So we will ask Tom from Ohio City Inc. and Greg from Land Studio to join Scott up front for our Q&A section or session. And Joel, the way we'll do this is we will have a mic runner. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and we will have Joel bring the mic over to you. He will hold it for you. So please don't grab the mic. And as soon as Joel is up here and ready to go, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I'd really like to applaud the thought, planning, input that this whole description speaks to. I was one of the persons who did the walk around to make comments with Whitney. I had a question then, and I still have that question, which is a lot of projects like this are brilliant in concept, but it's the continuity that makes a difference. Who is going to manage this? What different organizations are going to manage this on a continuing basis? Thank you.
Hey there, that's a great question. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Peckham with Land Studio. So let us tell you what we know right now. We don't have a completely baked answer to that question, and we'll be sort of very forthright about that. As folks know, with the exception of one well-publicized property, the partners who are involved in this project, whether it's Ohio City, West Creek Conservancy, Metro Parks, Land Studio, et cetera, own all of the property that's necessary to make this project happen. What we do know is that the Cleveland Metro Parks, as soon as the stabilization is completed by the Port Authority, they have $3.3 million in hand through NOACA to do all of the waterfront trails and boardwalks that were shown in Scott's presentation. Every one of the partner organizations I mentioned is very actively involved in addressing exactly the question that you put on the table, is how are we going to manage this? If we can get it built, when we get it built, who's going to be the steward of it? So it's a very active conversation. It involves the City of Cleveland, it involves the Metro Parks, it involves Ohio City Incorporated, the West Creek Conservancy, on and on and on, a number of organizations. So we have, thankfully we have about 2 years until the Port Authority is done with their construction to come up with an answer for that. But within our fundraising goal is also a maintenance and programming endowment that's going to help whoever the owner, manager, and operator is to get off on the right foot. So we're thinking both about sort of the sustainability, not just from the environmental standpoint, but in terms of maintenance and operations and all those types of things. So stay tuned. It's a great question, and it should be the first question that's asked, so thanks for asking it.
I actually have two questions. One is, how much land will redirecting Franklin Boulevard take away from the farm, which is an absolutely awesome entity that I've toured? And the second question is, I've heard that a hotel is planned for the intersection of 25th and the Detroit Superior Bridge, which would take land away from this proposed, 23-acre park. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll maybe answer the second one, and Tom can fill in any details. The hotel and the development that you're referring to at 25th and the bridge is actually on the north side of the bridge, so it's actually not on the property that we're talking about here. So it will benefit from, but will not be impacted by it. Brooke's telling me to speak up. Will do. So I'll let Scott address the question about the Ohio City Farm. Patrick from the farm is here tonight, a super active partner in this project, and I think we agree with you 100%. It's one of the most distinctive elements of this space, and protecting it and making sure it's elevated within the overall plan is a top priority for everybody.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks for that question. We totally agree. It's such an amazing space, and we're working really hard. In fact, I'm pleased to say that we're actually increasing the area of the farm, and I'll show you how we're doing that. The way that we're doing it is we have the current Riverview parking lot that's behind the building is very inefficiently designed. So we took a pass at it. We're actually giving them the exact same parking spaces they have. We're not taking any parking away, but we're configuring it in a way that gives more area back to the farm. So that's one thing that we're doing. The other piece that we're doing is right now the fence line of the farm is at the top of the slope, right? And we have a concept of terraced orchards that would come down that slope, so that things like, we could have fruit trees along that edge that you walk through when you come down the park. And so the combination of those two pieces actually just increases the area slightly, so that we're not losing to the Franklin realignment. But thank you for bringing that up.
Hi there. I was actually going to inquire, and I'm not sure if you know, you might not know this information as of right now, but I was wondering about the stabilization process, and if I realize it's a major thoroughfare for industrial shipping and whatnot, but do you foresee any impediment of the use of the river throughout this process?
Actually, we're going to have the Port of Cleveland and their engineering team is going to be at a station at one of the tables here, and I'd like to defer those questions about the stabilization project to them, because they'll answer it better than I will. So thank you for that, though. But yeah, they'll be set up, and we'll direct you to them. Unless, I guess we could also just give the mic. I don't know. Okay. All right.
Hi. I was just wondering about parking down by Hooples, and from watching the people that use the trails now, a lot of people come down here, park their cars, go for a walk, stroller, all that stuff.
Sure.
So is there a possibility of having a parking lot at the entrance of Columbus and Franklin?
Sure. Another great question. I know that that's an issue, and the way that we've been thinking about it is that the trail is linear, right? And it takes you through many places through the flats, so that once this is all connected, there will be tools and wayfinding to direct people to park throughout the flats. And once you get on it, you can hike or bike. We could have bike pods at the parking lot, so you could park your car, get on a bike, and take the tour. So I think we're thinking about it as more of a kind of a neighborhood context. We're definitely thinking about tapping into the West Side Market surface parking lots at the top of the hill and making a much clearer connection down, so that, again, using wayfinding to make that clear and safe. As I mentioned, we are constrained on level area, so we don't, because of the slope stabilization, we only have a few areas of flat places. So one is at the trailhead at Columbus, and in our work with the community, it seemed to be of higher value to offer program amenities like playgrounds and recreational facilities. So we were not considering putting parking in the park, but trying to connect the park to the existing parking that's in the neighborhood. But I appreciate the comment, and adding parking to Franklin as well through the realignment project. So we are adding 20 additional spaces on Franklin. So, thank you.
Hi, I wanted to commend you on commend the whole group on the very community responsive, community connecting presentation that you've done. The only thing that I think is missing is history. And I would hate to think that it's a Band-Aid going to be put on at the end of the process. And I'm particularly concerned that engineering considerations may the window may be quickly closing on the ability to reference and interact with or even view from afar the archaeological site. And you didn't really address the you mentioned it, but didn't address it in your plan.
Excellent question. I totally appreciate it. I'm really passionate about the archaeological history, and we're working closely with the port and their engineering team to make sure that we preserve these elements. Their work actually doesn't touch the archaeological site, so our piece of a park will address that portion. So there's no threat of it being impacted by the stabilization project. We're also protecting the coal dock remnant, as I mentioned, and the Cuyahoga or the Mahoning Valley Cleveland rail tunnels. The archaeological piece is tricky. And the reason we didn't dwell too much on it is there's another step that we need to do before we develop that design, which is exploratory digging and knotweed abatement and removal. Because there was a report that was done, and we use that as a guide that shows there are foundations underneath that, but we don't know where they are. And so what the next step will be in our design process is to survey that and then come back with a more developed, and we have a suggestion of it because we definitely want to preserve it, and it's a really important part of the project, and to interpret it and tell those stories, we're really committed to that. But we don't have the information we need yet to really fully design it. But I will promise you I'll come back with a design for it once I have the details.
Margaret, hi, Tom McNair. I wanted to add a little bit that as well. I think, as you know, we were looking at actually having an event specifically with the Irish community in advance of this. That wasn't able to take place, but please do understand that we are going to work with the Irish community very much on that site, right? As mentioned, we have about 2 years of the stabilization project going on before we get to the park. We know that there are areas within here that are going to require a deeper dive, and we anticipate telling that history throughout the park, right? So that is first and foremost in a lot of our minds.
Hi, thanks so much. One quick story. Thank you for filling in about the railroad bridge under the viaduct. I took the opportunity to take some of my family from Chicago there in the 90s, and they thought I was crazy. They thought Cleveland was crazy. I thought it was the part of the towpath bridge. So I like seeing that, and thank you. I can call them and say that, no, I wasn't crazy 20 years ago. I was indeed a visionary. But one quick question, and if I might have missed it, did you look at any cities or any parks around the country, around the world to model this off of? And if so, can you just talk about a couple?
Sure. Yeah, be happy to. We do a lot of precedent research and looking at especially Great Lakes cities with this kind of history. There's some great parks in Minneapolis that have done things with archaeological park elements. We looked at waterfront parks in New York for character, scale, precedence. So definitely, I had some images in here I can pull up, but maybe I won't. This will all be posted online, but there are some kind of precedent images from those parks in there, and I'm happy to talk with more about it. But definitely, yeah, we start all of our projects looking at, and world precedents too. I mean, international precedents as well. Joel, there's a question over here too. Okay.
I apologize, I got here a little late. I was tied up by the bridge. But when will this project start? What's the overall timeline? What are the milestones?
Great. Yeah, we had a little bit of a timeline in the beginning of the presentation. We're looking to, the port is expected to go to bid in the first quarter of 2022, and they have a 2-year stabilization construction project that takes us to 2024. And then we are planning on the heels of their work to start the park construction, and we're estimating now another 18 to 24 months after that. So probably, spring of 2026 is what we're hoping to open the park.
I think this is a great idea, and it would give some of our residents at Lakeview Terrace, if you guys going to include them as maintenance to help keep up the maintenance, you give them more jobs.
That's a great idea.
And that'll really cut down the crime and gun violence. Thank you.
Good. Great idea. Yeah.
I think this is a great idea because this would help some of the adults, young adults that live at Lakeview Terrace, and maybe some of the adults that live at Riverview. They help keep up the maintenance. This would keep down the crime rate, giving the residents, young adults, and some of our teenagers, our youth, jobs, and that'll help keep down the gun violence. Thank you for doing this this design.
Thank
but
you.
the guy did answer my question. I was wondering when was this going to take place,
okay.
and when are we going to have a grand tour?
We look forward to doing that in a few years together. But we have had conversations with CMHA about youth employment opportunities in the park. Yeah.
So being so close to Ohio City Farms and like the West Side Market, would you guys have areas maybe to do like grilling or stuff like that where you can just grab something and most of the stuff over there is going to be unprepared?
Right.
So something you can prepare down here or something.
Yeah, a great question. We have, we're currently looking at area at the top up here next to the playground and the adult, so it's kind of part of the neighborhood edge, but there will be barbecues and picnic tables and places for that. So you could pick up, some bratwurst at the West Side Market and come over here and grill it, which would be great, yeah. Joel.
Hi. A lot of us who live in Riverview, I do, are retired from industry. And I'm retired in board, and I'm a retired IT consultant. Would you consider employing us from Riverview? We're college educated, we're smart, we just retired, and now we're kind of bored. We're looking for something to do.
Yeah, we could definitely use your help. Yeah, like I said, we have been talking to CMHA about opportunities within the park, not only in the programming, but in cultivating and maintenance and building and stewardship. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, I can't speak for CMHA, but we're very much in support of that. Oh, Joel, another question.
I'm sorry, I got here a little bit late, so you may have spoken about this already, but first of all, kudos for managing to pull this together, especially the amount of money that's been pulled together to make this happen is just incredible in the short amount of time that you did it. I'm wondering what is going to be happening on the other side of the river, what known development we know about right now, going from where we are all the way to the other end of the park on Detroit, and who's buying a property, any new apartments, what do we know that's happening?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know, maybe Tom could better answer it than I.
Hey, Steve, how you doing? Tom McNair with Ohio City Incorporated. So, obviously, I think we're pretty cognizant. Ohio City is already one of the neighborhoods that is probably one of the hottest real estate markets in town. Dropping a 23-acre waterfront park on top of it, we know is only going to accelerate that. And there's some of that is good, and there's some of that we have to really understand what's happening and make sure that we're providing some balance with it. And so already with Detroit Avenue alone, you talk about the Bridgeworks. Hey, Dak. You talk about the Bridgeworks project that is going on in Detroit. So Detroit Avenue, just between West 25th Street and West 33rd Street, has about 800 units of housing, close to about $500 million of investment that is going in. Right, and so we're also cognizant, we've got great partners like the Snavely Group, who right across the street from here have already invested in 40 units of low-income housing tax credit, right? And so we're looking for places to add more affordable housing throughout here, and I think that's going to be really important as we continue to grow. So on this side of the river, right, I know that we have Jim Haviland here from Flats Forward, right, but I know that there is a lot of interest on this side of the river. There was recently the Vision for the Valley Plan that Flats Forward went through with the City Planning Commission that kind of laid a framework for, I think, that what can happen here in the future. And again, I think one of the things that's so incredible about this is you're actually connecting so many things that are happening, right? Like you'll be able to get from Irishtown Bend, from Edgewater Park all the way to Peninsula, Ohio, right? And that's going to tie the east and the west sides together. So again, I know that there are very active people looking on this side of the river as well.
So is this green space or park?
What's that?
Is this going to be green space or apartments?
This is on this side of the river? I can't speak for anything on this. On 25th? So obviously along West 25th Street, as soon as you can see here, we've got 23 acres of green space connecting from West 25th Street down to the river. As you look at what is happening in the rest of the neighborhood along Detroit Avenue and West 25th Street, we envision that over time that will continue to fill in.
So no apartments on the green space?
No, there will be, and to be very clear, I think this is, hi Lenny, how are you doing? I think this is something that we have been looking at for a long time, and as you know, I think the port and all their work told us a long time ago, the reality is that buildings are not possible on here, and so, you know, we looked at that as a huge opportunity, frankly. You know, the ability, we've always joked that Ohio City is the neighborhood that is, the waterfront neighborhood that can neither see nor touch the water. Right? And this is going to radically change that and really connect us. So we're extraordinarily excited about that.
Hey, this is awesome. So kudos to everybody. How much more money has to be raised to make the park a reality?
Yeah, another good question. The overall project budget, which we picture as both the stabilization and the park improvement project, is $90 million. $45 million of that has already been raised. That covers the stabilization project. So we have, I mean, I think in most large-scale kind of capital campaigns, you don't kind of go public until you have about half the dollars raised. So half the dollars that's necessary for this is already in hand. It's with the Port Authority. It's with other public agencies. So we are off to a really amazing start. That being said, you know, halfway to $90 million is still a long way to go. So we're going to be working really, really aggressively over the next, you know, 2 years to raise that money from philanthropy, from local, national, and federal government sources, from corporate community to make this happen. So we're halfway there. But you know, the next half, I would like to say, is the fun part, right? We had to, the Port Authority and NOAC and others had to fund the stuff that's sort of like the unsexy part. It's, you know, making sure the shipping channel, super important, doesn't get blocked and it's stabilized. And now it's the thing that we're all really excited about, which is how to make this an incredible waterfront park. So we're halfway there.
Mine is more a comment than a question. I don't see Whitney. But I would really like to thank Whitney and Scott and everyone else who worked with us, who allowed the Committee of Champions to work, and you for showed this evening that you listened to everything that we said. I could only speak for myself, but I think everything that we talked about, I saw reflected, and that's such a sense of gratification. I've worked on a lot of committees at the grassroots level throughout my whole entire retirement and working career, and we never saw it reflected on anything, or either I had to wait years and years and years to see it. But tonight I think everything that we talked about, I saw it up there. And like I said, I can only speak for myself, but I saw it up there. In the smallest things, I saw every suggestion that we made up there. I sat here just dumbfounded. I'm thinking over and over and over, wow, they listened. Whitney was just not taking notes just to take notes. That was just wonderful. I mean, at the grassroots level, we have no money. We're not George Gunn. I mean, we're not funding anything. just Riverview residents and Lakeview residents. Again, I can only speak for myself. And I cannot wait to call Thomas Lumpkin probably tomorrow and he's the artist, tremendous artist. I cannot wait to tell him, Thomas, you weren't here. They mentioned your artwork and it's gonna be something set up in the Riverview Welcome Center. Something that small is so very, very important. Even if it doesn't materialize, just to be up there in the planning stages. Again, thank you for listening to us. It's encouraging because it makes us want to continue sitting at the table. Thank you so much, Whitney and Ohio City. Just thank you for letting us be at the table with you. Thank you.
Well, I would say that I don't deserve to be the person standing at the microphone to hear that, but I would tell you it is heartwarming and it's inspiring, and I think that I'm so proud of the team to be able to get that kind of reaction from you, because that's what we're going for, and we have always said that this is folks who have been able to see the river and never touch the river, and to hear you say that means more than you can imagine to this team. So thank you.
I second that, to thank Whitney Long-Jones and the Champions and Ohio City Incorporated for inclusivity. You mentioned history in terms of Irish families and the Underground Railroad. I would also welcome you to include the history of homeless people who have lived along Riverbed Road for many, many years. Our society, for whatever reason, creates workers and created people who needed to leave on the Underground Railroad, and now creates homeless people, and I would like them to be represented in your history stories as well.
Yeah, I think that for sure, and there are so many stories, and then Scott kind of alluded to those the best he could in a short period of time. But I think that those layers of what this place has been and will be over time is, part of what's going to make this a really spectacular environment for people, is a place where you can sort of peel back the stories that have been a part of this. So, and that is, I think, a story that is not told. And this is a place where that is part of the history, and it needs to be on the surface for us all to remember and to see. Here's Whitney Long-Jones.
All right. Thank you, Greg, Scott, and Tom, and to everyone that had such amazing questions and comments. Miss Cynthia, I appreciate it. Miss Mitzi, this is really what it's about, bringing community together and us listening. Our job is to really listen to you. How can we improve quality of life for everyone? So without your participation, engagement means nothing. So I thank you. We thank you for being involved and working with us. So it's not us working with you, it's you working with us, and that is just so appreciated, your honesty and your dedication. We know you love the community, and we know that we have to work together to see anything become better. So thank you all. So it is getting dark. As you can see, we took down a couple of the walls just to give us a little bit of lighting, so bear with us just a few more minutes, everyone. There is a really quick activity that we're asking for folks to participate in. We have some of our partners and also our Irishtown Band Committee of Champions sitting at tables right underneath the tent. You should have received a document with some questions on it when you checked in. Please share your thoughts on the specific areas of interest that we will be discussing at each table. So one table is stabilization. There was a question about stabilization. Linda from the port, if you would be so kind to share your thoughts and feedbacks and expertise on that subject. We have an activities table. What type of activities would we like to see incorporated into the program or into the park? We have a programming table. What types of programming would we like to see incorporated into the park? and also a welcoming and accessibility table. So we were mentioning universal accessibility earlier. What does that mean? You know, what types of things can we incorporate to make sure that people with mobility issues are able to access all parts of the park and enjoy it just like anyone else? So if we can have those representatives at the tables, and you all please feel free to take a couple of minutes to meet with the individuals that are there, provide some thoughts and feedback on those questions, and just jot them down on a sticky note and put them right on the flip chart, and we'll take that information back with us and report out to you all later the feedback we receive from you. And I see a hand up in the air here. So we can discuss that while we're moving about at the tables, and I think that there may even be someone a little bit better, not more knowledgeable in that area to address that question for you. So I'm going to pass that on to Tom, and I hope that you can answer that question for me. So, Miss, if you'd like to just meet us over to the side, and everyone, please feel free, get up. If you haven't had an opportunity to grab your food, this is a chance to do that as well. So before it gets too dark out here, which it kind of is, let's let's move around, and then we'll be able to